We've all heard countless metaphors and similes for life. We've all heard statements, life is a game. Life is a journey. Life is a mystery. Life is suffering. Life is beautiful. Life is good. Life is short. Life is about finding yourself. Life is about creating yourself. Life is like a bowl of cherries. And the best one of all time, life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. Right? But it's as if every new generation wants to come up with this fresh way to think about life or to define life. And for the next 10 minutes, I want to give you a new metaphor for life. So take all the ones I said, any other ones that you adhere to, put them to the side. And for the next 10 minutes, just try this one on. Ready? Life is an interview. No! You're like, no! Interview! I hate interviews. There's all this pressure and I'm stiff and I'm supposed to impress somebody. There's nothing inspirational about an interview. I don't want to think of life that way. But let me just encourage you. In this interview, there's only one question. A single question in the interview of life. And the question is, do you care about me? Do you care about me? What if every interaction, every relationship, every acquaintance, every friend, every employee, every boss, every wife, every husband, every child, at the forefront of your mind was, this person is asking, James, do you care about me? Lisa, do you care about me? How could this impact our lives? I want to give you 3 stories from my own personal life about how thinking of life as an interview with the question, do you care about me, could benefit us. And the first one is from an organization to which I belong. About 3 weeks ago, I was sitting at a board meeting, and we were at odds with another organization. The leader of my organization had said some remarks that the leader of the other organization felt were harmful concerning their organizational health, the leadership decisions that they had made. And for 30 minutes, our board sat there strategizing, justifying, clarifying. How are we going to set the record straight? How are we going to put them in their place? How are we going to stand our ground? In other words, how are we going to win? And after 30 minutes of figuring out how we were going to win, one of the board members looked around and he said, what if we didn't do any of that? What if we gave this other organization a grant to hire a consultant to come in and help turn around their organization? And when he said that, it was like this little feather fell out of the sky and down onto the table. Because he was asking a different question. He said, listen, let's just set all of these circumstances aside. And what if this other organization, forget everything that's happened, is asking us the question, do you care about us? It's a different question. Another example comes from just a person who was an acquaintance. So if you've got an acquaintance in your life, people you're not close to, this applies to that. I was working at a job, I was actually training to be a part of this company. And the training was rigorous. I mean, it was brutal. And you had to pass one day's training to get to the next day's training. And I was on the last day of training. And I had been doing great. And on the last day, I failed. Miserably. Like, I didn't even come close. And I'm a perfectionist. Come on. I hate to fail. Nobody in this room likes failure. And I was dejected. I was hanging my head. And I had a girlfriend at the time. She was out of town. And none of my friends were around. And I thought, I just need someone to pick me up. Who's going to pick me up, you know? And I was walking out to the parking garage. And this other coworker, who I had only met once, and I didn't even remember her name, stops the car, rolls the window down. She says, hey, Justin, how'd your last day of training go? And I said, you know what? It didn't go well. I failed, and I have to come back tomorrow. And then she looked me in the eye and she said, you know what? You've been doing great. Everybody's noticed. And tomorrow, you're going to come in and shine like a star. You're going to pass. And I went from hanging my head to sticking my chest out. I just felt so good because partly it was unexpected. I didn't even know her really, and I only met her a couple of times. And whether she did it intentionally or not, she gave me the impression that she cares about me. And the final example is a painful one. 3 years ago, I was living in Atlanta, Georgia, and I was engaged to be married to a young lady. We were engaged in June of 2009. Had the wedding date set. She bought the dress, planning for the wedding, all this excitement. And a couple months into our engagement, our relationship really started to go downhill. There were a lot of issues surrounding it, but one issue in particular. One morning I was over to her apartment, and we were getting ready to go to an event later that morning, and she was a high school teacher. And I looked at her and I said, "How are your kids doing? How are your students doing?" And she looked at me in shock, and she said, "You never asked me how my students are doing." And that was true. See, I didn't think it was my role to care or be invested in our students. I just thought, well, I'm a dude. I'm supposed to be a sponge and just sort of absorb what she puts out about her day. And so when we would hang out, that's what I would do. And again, there were other issues. But listen, if we care about other people, and we care about the things and the people they care about, not just our direct relationship or their personal well-being. And Lindsay, my ex-fiancée, cared about her students deeply. And I wish I could say that this epiphany, this turnaround, was the catalyst for taking our relationship from the valley to the mountain, and we're happily married today. But for her, it was too little too late. She decided that she needed to move on. You see, my friends, we have no idea what's at stake in the daily responses to the people with whom God brings us into contact with. In the case of my ex-fiancée, it was our entire relationship. It was our future wedding and life together. In the case of the board meeting, it could be the entire future of the organization that we're at odds with. And in the case of my job, it was my self-esteem and self-belief. How many people do we come into contact with every day who are carrying massive burdens and could just use someone to help lighten their load? In the beginning, I asked you to try on this new metaphor of life as an interview in which there's just one question: do you care about me? But the fact is, every person in this room has heard the same thing multiple times, just not in the form of a question. In John chapter 13, verse 34 to 35, Jesus, our Savior, looks at his disciples and he says, "A new command I give you. Love one another. As I have loved you, so you must love one another." And I want to leave you today with my favorite poem, and it's called The Builder. I saw a group of people tearing a building down. A group of people in my hometown. With a heave and a hoe and a mighty yell, they swung the beam and a side wall fell. And I said to the foreman, "Are these people skilled? The type that you would hire if you wanted to build?" He smiled and said, "No, indeed. Common labor is all that I need. For I can tear down in a day or two what it took a builder years to do." And so I asked myself as I walked away, which of these roles was I going to play? Would I be the type that constantly tears down as I make my way foolishly around? Or would I be the type to build a life of care in hopes that others would be glad I was there? Thanks for listening.